out, but maybe I can make some room on it for this movie.
The thing is, this is the type of stuff he never could have tried. He never could have pulled off in Napoleon Dynamite because he wouldn't have gotten a G rating. And this is he needs that filter to appeal to his audience.
Yeah, but there's scenes in it just annoyed me from the very beginning where he's just being weird to be weird, and you could tell it's him just trying to get a cheap laugh by being weird. One girl's putting lotion on her hands while the guy who played the Mexican wrestler, like Jack Black's ally, and
Nacho Libre.
He's in this movie where he plays some flamboyant wannabe director, and
his whole joke is that he has the same awkward smile, I've had bad facial surgery smile going on the whole time
that he had in Nacho Libre,
which is supposed to be funny, and it's not. It's just creepy.
And he used that to weird effect where when she's putting lotion on her hands, for no reason, he leans up to this girl and whispers in her ear,
Oh man, that is so like, what the fuck just happened as you're watching it? There's the whole thing. People keep going and defending this movie, going, like you did, the parts with Sam Rockwell are eminently watchable. But you know what? They feel like a 13-year-old boy trying to imitate a Terry Gilliam film, but all he has to work with is stuff at like a giant warehouse-sized thrift store.
But that's what's actually that's what made me enjoy to some degree watching that, is because this is the imagination of a 13-year-old boy. But the idea that this would be in any way good and that people would be entertained by this is where the movie really goes overboard.
I don't know, though. I appreciate that's what the movie was trying to sell those scenes as, and yet that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying it felt like a 13-year-old movie trying to write those scenes as from the viewpoint of a 13-year-old boy in that ironic sense. Yeah. It's immature and not funny.
Well, yeah, what it comes down to is like, look, this is probably the wrong use of these words, but Jared Hess has very unique comedy, and it shows in
wrong words.
Well, unique is not always a good thing. I mean, he does.
I'm talking about comedy.
Unique, true.
Let's be honest.
I'm talking about
this ain't a comedy.
Keep in mind, I said he has his own very unique sense of comedy, and
this is an hour and a half of stomping on Carlyle's testicles.
And when you when you try to repeat it, it shows that you have nothing else to do. I mean, even though I did like Jermaine Clement in the movie, I thought he was
hysterical for 5 minutes, and then you were like, okay, dude, you're really getting on my tits. Get the fuck off.
The unfortunate thing is that he came out at Fantastic Fest, and that was the 5 minutes that he was funny. The minute he showed up on film, this is
he came out and introduced that character, and that's when I thought
he was really funny on
stage.
He's
hilarious. This movie's going to be great. And I'm sitting up there, and it was one of those weird situations where I'm sitting at a festival film, everybody's laughing because the director's there, and I'm sitting up there thinking like, am I the crazy one?
That's any festival. That's my least favorite thing about being in this business, is having to sit through festivals like that, where you're like, everyone is just sucking up, and you're like going, will you please stop it? This guy, I guarantee you, nothing a Hollywood guy needs more than an honest reaction to when they've made a shitty
film.
But
that's not what this was. What this was that screening that it was at Fantastic Fest, but it was a Fantastic Fest screening at the Paramount.
Yeah.
And there weren't enough, even if everyone from Fantastic Fest went to the Paramount, they would not fill up half the Paramount Theater. Yeah. So what happened, people with badges, so what happened was they sold tickets to people, on the street. So Jared Hess fans came out wanting to love this movie and came out in droves, hardcore wanting to love it, and the people who enjoyed it enjoyed the shit out of it. They're having that experience. I don't think it really had as much to do with the director being there as much as we were sitting in an audience of fans who were so thrilled to be the first people in the world to watch.
Dude, I saw a festival screening of Blood Rain with Uwe Boll in attendance that were not selling tickets to the general public.
I was there for that. People hated it.
Yes, they did afterwards, coming out and talking, but you certainly couldn't tell from the Q&A and the applause.
Well, it's definitely, look, festivals are the wrong place to gauge the attitude for a movie, because people are just fucking happy to be there. You know what I mean? They could fill that room with laughing gas. It wouldn't be any different.
True. I guess they're already like, imagine being at work the next day and telling people like, I got to see this guy.
Yeah, that's all it is. So,
what's next?
Friday the 13th. That movie,
dude, that movie was bad, but worse stuff.
It was forgettable crap. And
to
that's
me,
about it.
And keep in mind, like I said, I hadn't seen what you guys have seen, but for me personally, I've had it with remakes where they don't do anything with the source material. To me, it was just something where not only did they take a movie and not do anything with it, but they made it worse. And Friday the 13th movies, to me, are already kind of bad.
I feel like I wish I could get with you, except that I go into the Friday the 13th thing from the beginning going, they're all pretty bad. You know, I mean, the best one is the one with the psychic chick to me, because I'm like, wow, at least it's like funny, like slapstick watching Jason get hit by fucking stuff flying from everywhere.
I've seen all those movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Jason Goes to Hell, all those.
No, I've seen them all too.
And look, I'm not defending those movies. They're terrible.
They're awful.
But you and I talked about this the other night, where when you see a movie where it's genuinely bad, I mean, it was made at its time, you know, they thought maybe they were making a good movie, maybe they didn't, but it's something genuine about those movies made when they were made. Now, to remake those films and not really make it any better, which in my opinion is what happened.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's nowhere near as good as the one that John Ford did with Sir Lawrence Olivier back in 1950.
Oh man, when he was Jason Voorhees, he was awesome.
What the thing is with this film in particular is this film, they didn't remake this film because they thought they could just capitalize on the title or because they had some unique vision. It's a series they wanted to continue because it's a money in the bank series. It's cheap as shit to make.
So it is them
has a built-in fan base.
That's what I think. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
No. There are some remakes that they remake, like The Stepfather, where they remake it not because, you know what, people love this story and it's one that deserves to be remade. It's one that it's like, hey, people will recognize the name and come out and fucking see it. People know what a Friday the 13th movie. People know who Jason Voorhees is. He is iconic. And yes, they want to, I mean, of course it's a money-making thing, but it's not just, hey, let's capitalize on the name Friday the 13th. No, it's a matter of, hey, how do we continue the series? I don't know, dude. Last time we saw him, we shot him into space and he burnt up on re-entry. It's like, okay, yeah, he was kind of in the 24th century. Let's bring it back and restart the series and kind of bring together what they did. Because they brought together, when you actually watch the Friday the 13th movies, the Jason you know and may love doesn't actually show up till the middle of the third.
It shows up in number 3.
Yeah. Number 3 is where he gets the mask and where he becomes that Jason.
Mask,
and
1 he's the mom, 2 he's the brown.
He's wearing the brown burlap sack. And it isn't until after the 4th one that he's even undead and impervious to bullets and shit like that. So, I mean, what they do is they go and encapsulize the first 3 films and create the Jason Voorhees that we know so that they can continue it as a series for the fans that want it. And I, as a fan, in fact, I'm not a huge fan of the series, but I enjoy it. I enjoyed this film. It gave me everything that I wanted out of a Friday the 13th
and see,
movie.
I understand you and I are fans from a different area. It's like where I'm looking at it as a fan, I'm looking at this and like, wow, they gave us nothing new, and not only that, but they tried to cram everything up into like one movie.
That first 20 minutes was pretty awesome.
They gave us lots of tits in this one.
Yeah,
well, you can get lots of tits in the other ones too. Yeah, what are you talking about? That ain't nothing new.
Friday the 13th was all about.
What are you talking about?
But these are newer, faker tits.
No, you know what? I guess that's part of
maybe that's my argument. I like real titties. How about that?
That means even less now, because back when we were watching the original Friday the 13th films, pair of big like boobies and a hot chick on the screen was a big deal. Now you just go home and in an eighth of a second just hit those any one of the 5,000 links that Leon has on his bookmark.
That seemed like
you got naked.
Hey, you brought it up, man.
The ones I copied from you.
But you know something?
Don't act like you didn't give him that porn.
No, I'm not trying to like tell people not to like the movie. For me, it seemed like there was a time when there was some genuine exploitation going on, and this movie is like, wow, we're trying really hard to recreate like what kids would like really go see back in the day.
I'm just saying how boring. It's lazy filmmaking. You're going, wow, really? When did it start? 83? Was that the first one?
The bad one?
81,
Friday
I
the 13th.
Friday
the 13th was 80.
Okay, 1980. It's like, okay, and I understand what was happening there. I understand the reason for it. I even enjoy it to a certain extent, those films on that level. Going, okay, it's kind of quaint, fun that it's happening. There were better and much better slasher films going on around that time.
You know what? It is 81.
It is 81.
But to go and do that now, it's just dull. There's nothing new to offer here at all.
Well, I think
I didn't hate it. It's no worse than those films in the context of a film in and of itself.
Back then,
it just has nothing new to offer.
For me, I'm just fed up with this movie.
Yeah.
It's like I can use the word calculated. Where back then they were just doing it like, hey, kids like this kind of stuff. We got to do it. With this movie, it's like, okay, to be like these films, we got to calculate. Okay, here's the part where they show the tits. Here's the part where we kill this guy in a certain way. We got to have this certain kind of character. Plus, it was just terrible actors in that movie.
The generic by the book remakes. It's like, hey, let's not do anything different and just recreate it. There's so many of them happening. It just happens over and over again, and they're not even as good as the crappy 70s or 80s originals.
What kills me is that this is on your list because you didn't see any of the other truly terrible remakes.
Keep in mind, what can I do?
All I can do is list the stuff he hates.
Yeah,
I know.
And I tell you, Friday the 13th, that had the one black character in the movie where I didn't defend, where he just brought up the race issue no matter what. Dude, you want to pay gas? And he wasn't even black. He was like, hey, dude, that's uncool, man. Racism, dude.
Yeah, but he was actually deliberately being, but he was being the white black kid that actually played the race card.
Well, they were actually playing race cards.
And you were sitting there going, man, that ain't cool. You can't play the race card like that. That's not cool. You got to do it
with a black voice. You go, hey, man, ain't popping no gas.
You misunderstood. It's just the new Magic the Gathering set. It's called race cards.
Okay.
You misunderstood the concept entirely.
But you know what? To round this off real quick, year one, we all can agree. Like,
I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it? It's pretty much the Old Testament, and they're saying, hey, what if it's funny if we told the Old Testament with toilet humor and
year one was on my list. It's unspeakably awful.
Yeah, so Old Testament with potty humor and edgy humor, and it's terrible.
It reminded me of that movie Holy Moses, except without any talent whatsoever.
Ooh, Jesus.
No. Like that's exactly what it is. It's literally it's two cavemen wandering through the Old Testament and running into, oh hey Moses, we didn't know you were here. It's literally it's fucking awful.
Yeah, they're trying to really write off the humor of Jack Black and his sidekick is Michael Cera. You couldn't.
And it's Michael Cera. It's Michael Cera being Michael Cera and Jack Black being Jack Black,
like,
together played out.
To people together who do not need to be a team. I mean, that did not work at all. And finally, fired up. A teen
which
comedy.
I enjoy.
I know
the hell
you liked
out
it. A teen sex comedy with no sex, PG-13, with two guys who were in their 30s trying to play teenagers. I mean,
and they were funny.
No, to you they were. To me, they were terrible.
To you, it was autobiographical.
Yeah, exactly. I can tell you exactly how this should have went. No, it's Miss March all over again. Not as bad as Miss March, but this is it's the only reason why I wasn't close is because this was trying to get a PG-13 crowd in, and that was the biggest mistake of that film. I really walked out of that film thinking like, man, that was horrible. So anyway, who wants to go next?
I could go next, but I got to take a piss.
Yeah, I do too, but I'll just
you went on way longer than I expected.
I'll do two. I didn't make a list. I just want to throw in the two things that I have to add to this. I only have two films to really add specifically to this list that I want to add is Bride Wars is my least favorite film of the year. I mean, oh my God. It's weird. Both my least favorite films were both films that, strangely enough, the sexism is what bothered me in it. But
that's my number 3.
Bride Wars was so incredibly atrocious and like set back feminism by 20 years. And you can't believe Anne Hathaway is in this fucking film.
You know what? It's a film that's about two women who so want to get married. They don't really seem to be paying any attention to who they're getting married to. They just want to. They've always dreamed since they were 5 years old of having their wedding at the Plaza in June, and then the dates get screwed up, and they have to compete for a single date. And so two people who grew up together, loving one another, absolutely, totally destroy one another to get that slot.
Which would be the perfect setup if the message of the film was, wow, we're so shallow that we even have made our whole lives about getting married. But that's not what Bride Wars is about.
What? And let me say, I looked at that trailer, and after you guys came back and said how bad it was, I think this would have been on my list.
You got off easy. I actually watched The Unborn last week, and The Unborn is nothing compared to the awfulness that is in Bride Wars.
No, you know what the thing is, guys? I have it on my list too, but over the weekend I got to like flipping channels, like stop for a second on one of those Bridezilla episodes. It wasn't even Bridezilla. It was some other sort of knockoff show like that. Platinum Weddings, I think it is. And it was just so fascinating how disturbed these women are that I was like, wow, these chicks in Bride Wars are actually kind of vanilla compared to what real life is.
But by the same token, there's still no real storytelling in it. It's terrible, and I expect that out of Kate Hudson, but
not out of Anne Hathaway.
That was totally humiliating to see her in that film.
Well, you follow up an Oscar-deserving turn.
This
in
was
Rachel
her
at the wedding, and this was her Norbit. I know. You're like, oh my God, what the fuck?
It's like because she comes out and she does Rachel getting married, and everybody's like, holy fuck, she's an incredible actress, and she's like, all right, here's Bride Wars.
Oh, yeah, she
might have shot Bride Wars first.
Sure, but still, she shot Bride Wars.
That bitch wanted to get paid is what happened. I mean, you hear these actors all the time say, look, I did this for street cred, and I did this to get my house.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget her rich boyfriend got sent to prison.
on the same token.
Why you got to talk about Bill?
Because I blogged about it like every week for a while.
Yeah, you did.
She was in prison. Her boyfriend was behind the glass saying, baby, do Bride Wars. I need you to get me out this shit, please. I can last about 4 or 5
Bride
hours.
Wars money, baby.
Please.
On the same token of an actress, you're going, what the fuck? Katherine Hagel in The Ugly Truth.
Oh, that bitch is crazy.
Is another film where you're like, she came out of Knocked Up going, you know what? I was in this movie, but I got to tell you, this film is totally sexist. It's offensive. I don't even know why I was in it. This is wrong. She was coming out telling people not to see the film.
Yeah, she was.
And then
Seth Rogen called her up and said, "What the fuck?" And she was like, "Oh,
because
I'm sorry."
you don't even know what you're talking. Did you even read the script, the whole script, or did you just read like 20 minutes of it? Did you just read your parts? But then she turns around and does Ugly Truth, which makes Bride Wars look like Camille Paglia by comparison. Oh my God! Talking about a film like this strong, willful, like feminist woman. No, I'm going to do this who immediately falls for the biggest douchebag on the planet.
What? I mean, I was about to say, ain't that chick crying every fucking week on Grey's Anatomy?
Oh my God!
I mean, and then she gonna turn around and say fucking Knocked Up is sexist?
Yeah, well, no, that's what I'm saying. To turn around and follow up Knocked Up with this shit, which is by far the most offensive
she followed it up
film.
with. She followed it up with 27 Dresses.
Well, which was okay. No, fair enough. Which was bad. Which was just plain bad.
Except when James Marsden was on screen.
Yeah, but this is offensively bad. This is like I can't believe this is even happening.
It would be like Gloria Steinem falling in love with the guy who wrote The Game.
Yeah. Yes, it would be exactly what it would be like.
So was that your second one?
No, that was my second one. I only had the two that I wanted to add to the list.
No.
Well, you know what?
I know you saw something far worse than everything else we've talked about.
You know what? Hey, you know what? Let's let this Negro go pee.
I got to pee. I gave my two. I got to go first because I jumped ahead.
Okay, then you go down the rest of the list. We'll try to move faster.
You guys aren't going to talk about me, are you?
Yeah, of course.
Come on, you guys.
Cliffhanger.
Be nice.
All right.
Okay, you forgot something.
What? I didn't forget anything.
Old dogs.
You know what? That was absolutely terrible. You're right. And in fact, I still have chafe marks from where you like took those like new police plastic tape wristbands and tied me to my chair so I couldn't
when
leave.
I said, you're going to leave? Oh, because I can't walk out because I never walked out of a film. And you're like, fuck.
To be fair, you gave me $20 after the fact to not tell the real story.
I did not.
Still.
That is okay. Now you're making shit up.
I'm not making it up. Who are you going to believe, Spill? Me or Carlyle?
Yeah,
come on.
Carlyle nailed his testicles to the seat. He couldn't. His nutsack was stapled to the seat.
Like Serpent in the Rainbow? Over
yeah. Scream. Not loud enough.
Now, would you put Old Dogs on a worse list?
It would be on my top 10, but it still wouldn't beat my top two hits, my Bride Wars or Ugly Truth.
It's my number 2 worst of film. I mean, there was
that movie looks bad. Look, I looked at that trailer and said, you know what? I'm glad y'all took the hit.
There's a website called Faces of Old Dogs that is just cell phone captures of the various expressions
of people watching Old Dogs
or walking out.
I don't know how they're getting it, whether they took a bootleg and they're catching cell phone caps or whether they're doing it in the theater.
That's awesome.
But there's a blog that it's just all the various expressions, and you follow through, and it's like, oh, there's Seth Green making this expression, and there's Seth Green making that expression, and there's Seth Green making this expression.
Oh, now you know what? That could be some National Enquirer shit where they were like catching people about to sneeze, and they look like they got that
No, they're
face,
strange.
You know?
They're straight out of the movie, and it's like, oh fuck, I remember that scene. Oh god,
it needs a documentary. Worst movie. Just here's people reacting to a really fucking terrible movie with no redeeming value at all.
David Spade's The Showbiz Show, whatever Robin Williams' last movie was, not World's Greatest Dad, but the one before that, where they just ran a bunch of clips of him on all the different talk shows promoting that movie and how he goes into his riffs that are right off the cuff, but every one of them was exactly the same.
You know who else did that? Vin Diesel.
Well,
did he?
He told the same fucking story everywhere he went.
But the thing is, but Robin Williams always makes it sound like, I'm just improv. It's just
that's
comes
his
to me.
thing. But you know what? People have been doing that for decades.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's just recently in this new we capture everything media age, and there's a billion people super putting it under a microscope, examining it, that we're busting them for it. Man, this is standard practice. To be fair.
Well, like I said, Vin Diesel telling the same story over and over. Sure, that's one thing.
Yeah, but when you're
story.
doing the same question over and over.
But when you build yourself like, hey, I'm the guy who just comes up with shit right off the bat, out of nowhere.
He never says that. That's just the way his act feels.
Yes.
And of course that's not the way it is. Is anyone really like that? That's just the way he sells it.
That's true. This is our fourth time to record these same jokes.
And the fact that he does sell it, we've got to give him credit.
Think how many recordings we've lost, and we had to say,
that's
okay,
true.
I remember these jokes from the Bride Wars review.
Yeah. Now remember that part you said, Leon, when it was funny. You remember that?
We've done that.
But hit us with your list.
All right. Now I do actually have my number because I had about 20 films on here.
Damn, man.
It's a bottom 10 list, man.
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm going to go from 10. I'm going to work from 10 on
Leon's ready to sit in front of a fireplace and wait for an hour to go down a list of like 100 movies. Welcome to Leon's top worst movies.
We talked about Friday the 13th for 20 minutes.
I didn't want to. I tried to move on.
What do you mean you tried to move on? You know what? You kept bringing it back up.
Yeah, I was like, man, I liked it. Let's move on. You're like, no, motherfucker.
When people listen, notice how quiet I am because I was hoping somebody would take the hint and go like, hey, let's move on to something.
You were back there looking tormented. You had your head in your hands. You look like the thinker, except you had your head in your palms.
I was like, shit, dude. If Friday the 13th was one of the worst movies you saw this year,
you didn't see a lot of
great
movies.
Man, I did not see what you guys saw. I really admit.
No, I mean, we already said you're the boss. You said, fuck you, I'm not going to see that shit. That's what my peons
I feel like
are
I came out of battle, and then had to go onto the field.
You did see Miss March, though. I missed that one.
Miss March was terrible.
No, you actually saw a bunch of movies that I didn't see.
I got some bullet wounds.
You did. Cyrus, you'll be happy. I had Bride Wars at number 10. I know you're not happy it's number 10.
No, I can't believe that's number 10.
but it is on the list.
I saw the rest of your list. I'm like, that's nowhere near like 9 below the rest of them.
Well, that's you, dude. Okay, and like I said, these are movies that hey, you might not think they're the worst, but I hated them.
Okay.
I absolutely hated the experience. Post Grad, number 9.
That's my number 5 film. I fucking hate the shit
one
out
of those.
that movie.
You know, I find it like my worst films come in the collection of either movies with really bad feminist messages, or movies that I thought, like, you're trying to sell me on some sci-fi thing as real, and this is some old bullshit.
Yeah, how dare these bitches try to get equal rights?
No, but this movie.
No, I'm fucking with you. I hear
this
you.
movie in particular
I
was
vote you
fucking
suck my
awful.
dick.
This, in fact, of any film that really tested my resolve to walk out of a theater, this was the one.
What, Post Grad?
Post Grad.
That was the one.
That was the one.
I mean,
That was the one.
Like Cyrus says, it was just mediocre, but it was like at first it's just mediocre. Carlyle's right. It starts out with a good message, like, wow, you think you're the top shit, and then you get into the real world, like everybody's the top shit. You got to really step up, and maybe things aren't going to work like you think.
Yeah, if you spend this whole opening sets you up to this whole idea that you spend your whole life working towards a goal and being dedicated, and you think that's all it takes, and really it doesn't. You need something that makes you special. You need that spark, and this character doesn't have that spark. But then when she discovers that, her life spirals out of control. She takes her brain out, becomes a completely fucktarded individual, and we go on this terrible, terrible attempt at a romantic comedy that just kind of neatly hands her everything at the end of the film.
And the film never expects you to do anything as an audience but celebrate her and her decisions.
Yes.
And that's ridiculous because this is just patently bad decisions this person is making.
Yeah,
And she's
it is
so
a bad movie.
whiny.
And the decision she makes at the very end, I was like, you know what? Fuck this movie.
It just didn't bother me. That movie just didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me. I just almost fell asleep in it. I was like, you know what? This is so uninteresting and so generic. It's not offending me because there's not enough here that could have gone well
I think
to
I
be
fell asleep in
offended
that.
by it.
Hated it.
Yeah, it didn't bother you because you got a good nap.
Yeah. Oh, I feel refreshed.
Really, that movie didn't bother you? Not at all. I brought a pillow.
I almost felt like it's one of those things like if somebody had put out like The Howling 17 this year, directed video, and I saw it, me putting it on my list. I go, really? You're going to put that in your worst of your list?
You know,
I mean, I'm sure it was one of the worst movies, but it was so like, could it have gone any other way?
I guess it didn't offend me because I just saw it as kind of just sad. I mean, you had Michael Keaton and Carol Burnett in the movie, and I was like, maybe I feel sorry for this film.
Yeah, it was a retirement home.
Yeah.
It was
The way it abused the two of them.
Where do broken actors go to die?
Well, and this was, since I was actually awake through the film, and so was Cyrus, I kept leaning over to Cyrus and saying, "Oh, gee, I wonder if this is going to play in later in the film." And I was like calling plot points an hour.
I remember what I said. I said,
So I had that moment in Meet the What About the Morgans with the bull suit.
Yeah.
If they use that bull for a wacky comedy bit, then that's
it. It's game over.
If you had that moment, then understand where you're coming from.
No, that was so
painful.
predictable. I gave up in 10 minutes.
Yeah. What else is on your list?
Okay, getting number 8. Now we dip into the movies that like are trying to scare me, but are actually just some old bullshit. Knowing with Nicolas Cage.
Hated that movie.
Hated it. The religious overtones, the whole thing of like, oh, these child molester aliens want to take our kids and drop them off in Narnia to start a new
One of the
world.
laziest sci-fi ending, as long as I can remember, almost.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe some people walked out of this telling me they actually loved it. I've seen people putting this on the best of the year list.
Well, you've seen Roger Ebert putting it on the best of the year.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Roger Ebert has a major hard-on for Alex Proyas.
Yeah,
first
he
of all.
He does, and Roger Ebert's crazy.
Yeah.
I
Or he had a
like
stroke or something.
the old Roger Ebert quite a bit, and even admire him. But yeah, he's been kind of
Roger Ebert's always
weird
been like
since.
this, so he's always had a heart for science fiction, black chicks, and titties.
Well, his whole thing is like, show me something I haven't seen before, and I'll give you points just for that. And I'm with him on that. But he's since taken it to a place that I feel uncomfortable.
I've heard crazy arguments with Roger Ebert back when Gene Siskel was alive. He said, like, he reviewed Return of the Swamp Thing, and Siskel was like, "You love this movie. Are you crazy?" And his argument was, "You didn't like the Mad Scientist Laboratory in the movie." So it's like, I love Roger Ebert. You know, he's a name guy. He's one of my mentors as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no,
but
me too. But he has those moments.
Yeah,
I mean,
he does.
To be fair though, he was one of the only major critics who would go and see a genre film and be able to identify it when it really was great. And go, you know what? You guys are all making fun of this shit because you're not looking at this right at all. This is a genre film. You need to look at it in that context. And he'd be able to occasionally be the one guy who would call that for what it was.
Knowing it didn't even come close to my worst of list.
No.
There are elements I like in it. There's some really great
There's one
scenes.
special effects scene that I like, but other than
there's
that,
some cool story elements. I like overall where they were going, but then when they got to the ending, I feel like you. I'm like, wait, what? And this is one of those. There is just something weird in storytelling, and it's something about the times we live in. It's something about we don't like to mix our chocolate and our peanut butter. We're fine with religious horror films, and we're fine with alien abduction stories. But the minute you cross aliens with religion, people just fucking freak out. We saw it with
freak out in what way though?
Well, freak out in the same way we saw it with
freak out in a positive way or a negative way?
No, negative way. Like
because people love this movie.
No, there are